Hello everyone, welcome back to Genius Knowledge Point, your one place for practical programming solutions for computer and IT students. I am making this video to provide practical knowledge to all students so that you can develop your own programs which will be helpful for your studies as well as career. In this video we will see practical number 25 of Java programming, which is according to case scheme of Diploma Computer and IT students, and semester number is 4. The topic in this video is to demonstrate the connection oriented communication using socket. So before starting the connection oriented communication, we have to understand the basic concepts or basic parties which are involved in the networking. So for that purpose we will go to the diagram. So there are two types of systems in the networking. So the first system or the first computer is called client machine and the second computer is called server machine. Both the machines are normal computers, but according to their roles they are decided as a clients or servers. So what is a server? Server is the machine or server is the system that is providing particular service to multiple or single client. So that is called a server machine. It is always providing particular service to the clients. And what is client machine? Client machine is the system which is always requesting particular service from the server. So that is called a client system. So these are the two roles that are performed in networking by different computers. So both the systems are normal computers, but according to their roles they will become a server or a client. So in the server side there are multiple services running, like mailing service is running, or maybe it is providing web pages, so web service is running, or it is providing file handling services, so that is called file services or FTP. So these are called the multiple services which are handled by a server. And what is client? A client will be requesting to the particular service which is provided by the server. So for example, if a server is providing web pages, so on client side what you will do, you will just open a web browser and you will send a request to particular web page. So that request will be sent to the server and the server will send a particular web page which is requested by client to the client machine, and you can see that web page in your web browser. This is how the website is opened inside your client machine, and this is how the server is providing the web service to multiple clients. So what is the task of server? Server is always checking whether any client is sending request to the server. So it is always listening for particular request, and whenever any request is coming to the server, so what it will do, it will send a response to that particular client. And what is the task of client? The task of client is to request particular service from the server. So client will always send request, or client will always send a connection request to the server. Server will not connect to any client machine directly. Server will always check whether any client is requesting for service. So that's why server is in listening process always, and client is sending request to the server. So it is sending connection request to the server, and after receiving that request, server will make connection to the client, and in response it will send that particular service. So this is how the client and server systems are located inside our networking system. Both are having a normal system, but they are having different roles. This is how the client server system is created inside network. So let's move to the connection oriented communication. For creating connection oriented communication, we have a protocol that is called TCP, Transmission Control Protocol. And for that transmission control protocol, we have different classes associated with that in Java programming, and using those classes we will be creating our connection oriented communication. So what is connection oriented communication? Whenever a client is sending request to the server, a connection is made between client and server, and that connection is called connection oriented using TCP, because there are multiple features associated with connection oriented or TCP protocol. So the connection is continuous connection, and the data sent by the client to the server or server to the client, that is acknowledged on the each other side. So that's why it is called connection oriented, and it is a type of slow connection because every time data is sent, it is checked whether all the data is sent to the server or client. So that's why it is having slow connection, but it is having continuous connection. So moving toward the first question of our practical related questions. write a program to check credentials of users. Client will send user ID and password to server, and server will authenticate the client using equals. So this is how the program will be, or this is how the question will be. What we have to do, we have to send user ID and password to the server, and the server will authenticate the client using equals. So server will check that user ID and password, and whether it is correct or wrong. In that case, it will send a response to the client. So this is how the program will be. We have to create two systems here. One, we have to create a program for client machine that will be working as a client program. Then we have to create one more program which will be working on the server machine, that will be the program of server side. So this is how we have to create two programs here. One program will be having client side, other program will be having server side. So how the programs will be, for that purpose we will again move to the diagram. So this is how both the programs will be. So in case of client, what we will do on the client side, we will accept the user ID and password on the client side. Then what the client will do, client will send that data to the server using client socket. So for that purpose we will see the socket connection using programs. So sending data, that will be done using the client socket. So the client machine will send a request to the server. So at the same time, what the server will do, server will be checking whether any request is coming from the client machine. So for that purpose the server will be waiting. So whenever we run these programs, we have to run this program simultaneously, because both the programs will be sending data to each other. So that's why we have to run this program simultaneously. First, the client will send the data to the server. At the same time, server will be running and it will be listening for any client request, or it will be checking for any client request. So that data will be sent and a connection will be made here. And at the server side, what it will do, it will receive the data which is sent by the client. So the data is received. So this is the first step on the server side. It will be receiving the data. Then it will check the data using equals that we have seen in the question. So it will check the data whether it is correct. Then after checking the data, what it will do, it will send the data to the client back. But in that sending, it will send a response to the client whether the data or whether the user ID or password is correct or wrong. So again the data will be sent using the same socket that will be created using client side. So this is how the connection will be made using client and server. So first the client will send data. So this is the first step on the client side, and on the server side first step is receiving the data. Then the second step on the server side is sending the data, that is sending the response. So it will be sent to the same socket which we have created using client socket, and that data will be received on the client machine or the client side. So the second task on the client side is receiving the data and displaying the output. So this is how the data will be sent and received using client and server system. And for those sending and receiving, we have a connection made which is called a socket connection. So on the server side we will be creating a server socket which is having a task of listening of the data, and on the client side we are creating a client socket which will be connecting to that server socket. So whenever a connection request is made on the server socket, what it will do, it will create a reverse connection so that you can send that data to the client machine. So this is how a reverse connection is made here from the server side. So that we will see in the programs. So let us move to the question again. So we have to create two programs here. One will be client program, another will be server program. So directly moving toward the code. First we will create a server side program. So initially I am importing java.net.star. So this is the network package I am importing. Then I am importing java.io. So we are creating input output operations. For that we have to use a java.io package. This is the input output package, and net is the networking package. So both the packages are imported. Next I am creating my class definition as class check server. So this is the class name which is my main class. Then in that I am creating main function as public static void main string args. Then after that I am using exception handling because we are dealing with networking programs. So whenever there is a connection request or connection drop or loss of connection, there may be generation of exceptions. So for that purpose we have to include all the coding inside exception handling, which is try catch block. So I am opening a try block here. So in that I am creating a message. So this is the message which is received from the server. So this is the variable, or this is the object of string class. So I will be using this as a message which is received from the server. Then I am creating one object of ServerSocket class. So why ServerSocket is created? Because we are creating a server here. So for that purpose we have to use a object of ServerSocket class. So connection socket is the object name. Then I am creating new ServerSocket, and in that we have to specify a port number. So whenever we are connecting to any server, so in that connection we have to specify a port number of that server where the service is provided. So in our case we are creating a service on 1234 port number. So that's why I have included 1234 as a port number. So next I am creating a socket. So whenever you want to connect to another system, you have to create a normal socket. So this is the object of normal socket, which is data socket is equal to connection socket dot accept. So what is this accept method? So this accept method is running on this connection socket object, which is of ServerSocket class. So what is the meaning of this accept method? As soon as any client send request to the server, this accept method will accept the request and it will create a reverse socket, which is called this socket, which is data socket. So this is the object which is sending the response to the client. So for that purpose we will be using this object, and this ServerSocket object is just for creating a ServerSocket which will be listening for any request on port number 1234. So this is how the flow of the program will be. So as soon as any client send a request to the server, this accept method will run and it will create a reverse socket which is called data socket. So using this socket we will send a response to the client. Next I am creating coding for accepting data from the client. So first, as you have seen in the diagram, the server will be accepting data from the client first, then it will be sending response. So for accepting data we have to use multiple classes here. So as the data is accepted in the form of streams, we have to create one object of InputStream class, that is in. The InputStream in is equal to data socket dot get InputStream. So the socket object which we have created for sending data to the client, so from that socket we will be taking the input stream. So for that purpose I have used get input stream function of data socket. So it will open a input stream to the data socket because we are receiving data here. So for that purpose we have to use a input stream. Then we have to read the data from that input stream. For that purpose we have to use data input stream din is equal to new data input stream, and in that constructor we have to pass in as an object, so that will be connected to data socket. So this is how we have created data input stream which will be reading the data. Next I am creating two string variables which are uname and pass, and I am using din.readline function. So what is din.readline? It will read the data which is received from this data input stream object which is connected to data socket, and data socket is connected to client. So the data from the client will be taken into data socket, and that data will be read using this readline function, and it will be read as a single line. So initially we will be accepting username only, so that username will be accepted here using this readline function, and that will be stored into uname string variable. Next I am creating one more variable which is pass. So in that I will be accepting again using readline function. Again I will be passing the data accepted inside a pass variable which is of again string variable. So both the values are accepted here, which is uname and pass. So both the username and password values are taken into our server side, and they are stored into uname and pass objects respectively. Next I am using if condition here. So if uname dot equals, and in that bracket I am checking admin. So this is the string which I am checking with uname variable. So if uname is equal to admin, so a is small here, and pass dot equals admin, a is capital here. So if my username is admin and password is capital A admin, so this is how the if condition will become true, and I am setting message as authentication successful. So the message variable value will be stored that authentication successful string value. Next, if it is not equal, then else part will be run, and in that I will be storing message is equal to authentication failed. This is how we have generated output inside our message variable, which is authentication successful or authentication failed. So this message variable is storing our output. So next, our accepting data is done, our checking of the data is done here. Next, the remaining part is sending response to the client. So for that purpose I am using OutputStream object here. So similar to InputStream, we have a reverse object which is OutputStream OS is equal to data socket. Again I am using the same socket object which is created to client machine dot get output stream. So similar to get input stream, we have a opposite function which is get output stream. So that will create output stream to the data socket object. Then I am using print stream, which is opposite of data input stream. It is used for sending the data, and data input stream is used for receiving the data. So print stream socket output is equal to new print stream, and in that I am passing OS, which is the object of output stream. So this is how my print stream is created, and which is connected to OS, and OS is connected to data socket. So next I am just writing socket output, which is object of print stream dot println. So this is the method which will be sending the data in the form of string. So I am writing string as a response from server and attaching message value. So what is the message value? It will be either authentication successful or authentication failed. So according to the input received from the client, it will be generating either authentication successful or authentication failed as a message, and that message is attached in front of the response from server string. So this is how the data is sent to the client machine. So the data is sent here. Finally we have to close both the sockets. So for that purpose we will be using data socket.close function, which is applied on data socket object, which is of socket class, and we have to close the connection from server also. So for that purpose I am using connection socket.close function. So the connection is closed here, and finally the coding is complete here, and the remaining part is after try we have to include catch here. So inside catch I am just including the exception class and object as E, and in that I am just using e.print_stack_trace. What is this function? It will be displaying the total trace of the exception object. So it will display all the line as well as object name where the exception is occurred. So this is how the catch is also complete. This is the bracket of main function. So main function is complete and class is also complete. So I am just saving this code. Next, the remaining part is we have to create program for client machine. So I am moving toward the next code, which is of client system. So initially I am importing java.net because I am going to use networking classes here. Then I am importing java.io for input output operations. Then taking java.util.star because we are going to use scanner here. We are accepting data from the user here. So for that purpose we are using util here. Next I am creating my class definition as class check client. In that I am creating main function public static void main, again using a try catch block here. So inside try I am creating an object of socket class, which is socket client socket is equal to new socket, and in that socket class we have to specify two parameters. First parameter is the address of the server. So in our case we are running the client and server on the same system. That means I am running client as well as server program on the same computer. For that purpose we have to use this localhost or a loopback address, which is 127.0.0.1 or localhost. So whenever you are creating or whenever you are testing your network application, you can use this localhost, which will be connecting to your own system. So I have included localhost here. If you are running this program on two different machines, then you have to specify the IP address of server here. So this is how the IP address is included here. Next, comma, we have to specify the port number where we want to connect. So I want to connect 1234 port number of the server, because in our server program we have opened a 1234 port number here. So this is how the connection will be made to the server, and using that connection we have created this client socket. So next I am creating an object of scanner class. So scanner sc is equal to new scanner system.in. Then I am writing a simple message using println enter username, accepting that username into uname string variable, which is sc.nextLine function. So the data will be accepted into uname variable. Then again I am using one more println statement as enter password, accepting that password into pass variable. So uname and pass. These are the variables which are storing my username and password respectively. Next, we have to send data to the server. So for that purpose, again we will be doing the same coding which we have done in the server side. So this sending coding will be here. So output stream object is created, which is connected to client socket using get output stream function. Then print stream object is created using print stream class. Then OS is connected there. Then using socket output.println function, I am using this uname as a parameter, so it will send the data as a uname, so which is our username. Next, I am using socket output.println pass, which will be sending the password data to the server. The username and password is sent to the server. On server side, we have accepted those using din.readline, again din.readline. So username and password is accepted using din.readline here, and from client side they have sent using socket output.println function. So this is how the data is sent to the server. Next, we have to receive the response from the server. So for that purpose, we have input stream in is equal to client socket dot get input stream. So if you see, the coding for the server which we have run for accepting data is come here. So the coding similar is done here. So input stream in is equal to client socket dot get input stream, then data input stream d in is equal to new data input stream in. So this is how the data input stream object is also created. Finally, we have to print the data which we have received, and that data will be received using this din.readline function. So what is the data we have received? We have received this message, which is response from server, and the message variable value will be displayed there. So that data will be printed using system.out.println function. So this is how the output will be printed here. And finally, we have to close the client socket which we have created earlier. So this is how the try block is complete. In try block, what we have done, we have accepted username password, then we have sent data to the server as a username and password, then we have received response from the server and we have printed that response. So this is how the coding is complete. Finally, we have to use a catch block. So catch exception e object is created here, and again we have to use print stack trace. So a dot print stack trace will be done here. So this is how the catch is also complete. Then main function is complete and program is also completed. So to run this program, what we have to do, we have to run these two programs separately on two different CMDs. Then only we can generate our output. So for that purpose, initially I have to compile this program. So first I am compiling the client system. So check client is the class name. So opening CMD here. First command is java c, then class name dot java. After entering, it has generated notes only. These are considered as warning. These are not errors. So you can run the program, but I cannot run client directly, because for working of the client and server system, we need to run server first. So to run the server, I will go to the location again. Then I will open a new CMD here, because we want to run this program separately. So first command is java c, then class name which is check server dot java. So after compiling, there is no error. It has just generated nodes which are ignored. Next, I have to run this server system. So I am writing command as java space check server. So after entering, it is doing nothing. That means it is waiting for the client machine to connect here. So this is how the server is listening now. It is waiting for any client machine so that it can send response to the client machine back. So the server socket is created here and it is waiting for any connection on port number 1234. So now we will go to the second CMD which we have opened earlier, and we will run a client here. So I am running client here now. Java space check client. So after entering, it is asking me to enter username. So according to our inputs, I am just writing admin as a username. Next, it is asking me to enter password. So I am writing capital A and admin as a password, which we have seen in our program coding. So after entering, let us see what is happening. So it is displaying that response from server is received here and authentication successful is printed here. So this is how our output message is printed. So what we have done here, we have sent our admin as a username and password to the server, and on server side if you see, the program is completed. That means it has accepted the admin and admin as a username password, then it has checked using equals and if condition, and in response it has sent whether it is authentication successful or authentication failure message. So this is how we have got response from the server. For that purpose, what we have done, we have opened our first CMD, on that we have run our client machine, then we have opened a second CMD, on that we have run our server machine. This is how we have created our client and server system on the same computer. We have created it using same system and different CMDs. But you have to remember that you have to run a server system first, then only you will get a response. Otherwise you will not get any response, because the connection from the client will receive to the server first, then only the server will send response to the client. So this is how this client server system is done here. And if you see, it has run only single time. The username and password taken from the client and it is sent to the server. In response, server has sent the authentication successful or failed message, which is run single time. If you see, the server is closed here and also client is closed here. So this is the single input program. We have generated a single input and output here. We haven't generated multiple input and output here. We are just sending user ID and password, and the server is sending a single response here. It is not sending any other response again. This is how it is running single time only. So this is how we have completed this first question, which we have seen in the question that we will send a user ID and password using a client machine, then on the server side it will send the authentication failure or successful message using equals function of the string class. So this is how this question is completed here. Now let us see the second question. Write a program using socket and ServerSocket to create chat application. So in this question we have to create a real world like chat application, that is we have to create a chatting application where you can send messages to the other party and you can receive response from the other party. So this is the chat application. So you can say it is similar to the first question. In first question what we have done, we have just created a single communication between a client and a server. So we have sent username and password to the server using client machine, and in response we got authentication failure or authentication successful message. So this is called a single communication because we are just sending user ID and password, and in the response we are getting a message. So this is a single communication. After that the program is terminated. But in case of chatting application, it is not like a single communication, because in chatting application there are two parties. One is the sender and another is receiver. The sender is sending messages, but at the same time it can receive message which is sent by the receiver. So this is how the chatting application works in real world. So this is how we have to create our real world like chatting application. And you can send multiple messages from client to server or server to client. So it is possible in real world chatting application. So for that purpose you have to create coding like that. So it is not like a single communication, it is repetitive communication, and at the same time you are sending the message as well as receiving the message. So for that purpose we have to generate it using a different type of coding, and or you can say it is having advanced features similar to first question, but it is more advanced than the first question. So moving toward the diagram first to understand the concept of chatting application. So this is the client machine, or this is the client program, and this is the server program, and you can see a client is sending messages, so it will be having a sending code, but at the same time it has to receive the message from the server. And similarly on the server side it is sending messages to client, but at the same time it is receiving messages from the client. And for that purpose we have to do the coding which can run simultaneously, so that we can send and receive at the same time. So for that purpose we are going to use a concept which we have already seen, that is called a thread. So for receiving the messages we will be creating our coding of receiving inside a thread, so that we can run that thread alongside our sending code. So this is how we can send a message, at the same time we can receive the message, because it will be running inside a thread. So thread can run simultaneously with the program code, so that's why the receiving thread will be working in the background and sending message code will be running as we are sending our messages. So whenever we are typing the message, that will be manual sending of the message, but at the same time receiving part will be running inside the background, or receiving thread will be running in background, so that it can receive the messages which are sent by the other party. Similar to client, the server side will also the same coding. So it is also having the receiving thread, so it will be running inside, or it will be running in background, so that it can receive the messages from client and it can show the messages. At the same time it can send the messages to the client. So this is how the client and server system will be, and we have to use threads here because we need one process in the background which is called receiving process. The receiving of the messages should be run in background so that it can receive message at the same time the message is sending. So at the client side we will be creating a normal socket, and on the server side we will be creating a server socket, as we have seen in previous question. So initially we have to create our server coding, we have to run the server so that it can create a server socket on particular port number, and it will be open for listening process. And whenever any client socket connected to that server socket using the port number and IP address, the connection will be made and the connection will start sending and receiving messages. So this is how the coding of this program will be, and we have to create two programs here. One will be of client program, one will be of server program, and in both programs we have to create threads for receiving messages. So let us move to the question again. So again we have to use socket and server socket here. So that we will do in server socket will be used on the server side and socket will be used on the client side. So moving toward the code now. So initially we will see the coding of server. So as we are doing networking program, we need .NET package. Then I am importing java.io package because we are going to use input output related operations, as well as we are going to use exceptions here. So for that purpose we need this package. Then I am using java.util.star because we are going to use scanner here for accepting input from the user, so that we can send that accepted input to the server or client. So this is how the packages will be imported. Next I am creating my class definition as class sReceiver. So this is the thread I am creating for receiving the messages from the client. So this is the server program, it will be receiving the messages from the client. So class sReceiver extends thread. So this method we have already seen in thread chapter. So whenever you want to create a thread, so you have to just extend the thread class, so automatically your class will become a thread. So in that class I am creating one object of socket class. So that will be the socket which will be having a reverse socket on the client side. So socket CS, so this is the object which I have declared here. Then I am creating my constructor. In that I am passing one socket object as a parameter, and using that object I am initializing my CS object, which is my member object. So CS is equal to S. So this is the constructor which will be initializing the socket object, and this will be run whenever I am calling the sReceiver object, or whenever I am creating this sReceiver class object. And using that class object I am passing a socket here. That socket will be initialized to this socket object. Next I am creating my run function, which is of thread class. So public void run. So in that I am taking InputStream class object, which is InputStream in, then data InputStream d in. So why these are needed? Because we are receiving the message from the client. So for receiving we need these two classes that we have already seen in previous question. Then I am taking one string variable which is string message. So whatever the message received from the client, that will be stored into this message. Next I am creating a while loop, and in that while I am passing true directly. So why this true is passed here? Because I want to receive I want to run this coding of receiving again and again. Then only I will get the messages from the client side. So for that purpose I am creating this while true. So this is an infinite loop, that means it will run continuously unless I break it from inside. So this loop is started here. In that again I am using a try catch block because we are going to use networking concept here, and for that purpose we have to use exception handling. So try block is opened here. So in that I am creating this in object as in is equal to cs dot get input stream. So this is the input stream object I have initialized here. Then I am initializing the din object which is of data input stream. So din is equal to new data input stream, and in that bracket I am passing in. So this data input stream will be connected to input stream, and input stream is connected to CS. CS is our socket object which is connected to client. So this is how the flow of the streams will be. Next I am using message variable is equal to din.readLine. So whatever the message received from the client, that will be read here using this function which is din.readLine. Then that message will be stored into message parameter or message variable. So this is how we have received the message from the client and we have stored it into this message variable. Next I am checking this message using if condition. If message is equal to null, that means if there is nothing sent from the client, so in that case the message will be having null value. So in that case I am just using system.exit 0. So this is how I am closing the application or closing the program directly. So for that purpose we are using system.exit 0. So it will explicitly close the current running program and directly we will move to the CMD. So we will move out of the program and the program will be exited here. So when it is exited, when the message is equal to null, and if it is not equal to null, then it will go to next line which is system.out.println from client. So this is the string part and that will be printed, and in front of that I am attaching the message value. So it will display from client and you will see the message which we have received from the client. So this is how the try block is completed here, which is displaying the message received from the client, and it is running in infinite loop. So that means it will continuously run checking whether a client is sending any messages to the server, and as soon as it receives the message it will just print it using this string message. So the try is completed. Next I am using a catch block, and in that we have to catch the exception. So I am directly using normal exception and the object name is IE. In that catch block what I am doing, I am just printing client connection ended. So anything happens or any exception occurs here which is regarding networking issue or your connection is breaked here. So in that case what it will do, it will just print connection is ended and it will again use system.exit 0. So it will close the program directly. So anything wrong happens inside our connectivity, so in that case what it will do, it will just close the connection or it will close the program directly, printing this message. So this is how the catch block is completed. Then the while loop is complete here, and this is the coding which is running continuously for checking any messages received from the client. So while block is complete. Next the run method is complete, which is of thread class. So this method will run whenever we are starting our thread. So the run is complete, and finally our class is complete, which is extending thread class. So this is how our thread is created, which is receiving thread. So it will be continuously receiving the messages from the client. Next we have to create our main class. So public class chat server. So this is the main class. Then in that I am creating main function. So in that main function I am again using try block because we are going to use networking here. So for that purpose we have to enclose the coding inside try block. So in that try block I am creating an object of ServerSocket. So this is the server program, so it will be creating an object of ServerSocket class. So this is the object name, which is connectionSocket is equal to new ServerSocket, and the port number is given as 1234. So my server is created here and the socket is listening at port number 1234. So it will check whether any client is connecting on this port number, which is 1234. Next I am just printing a simple message, server started. So as soon as my server is created, it will print this message, server started. Then I am using a socket class object as a socket data socket. So this is the reverse socket which we are going to connect to the client after accepting the connection from client. So for that purpose we are writing is equal to connectionSocket.accept. So as soon as any client is connected to this server socket, it will create a reverse connection to that client using this object, so which is called data socket. So this is the socket object which is connected to client, and using this socket we will be sending the data and receiving the data. So this is how the connection is made here using this accept function. Till the accept function is running, it will wait for any client connection on this port number 1234. So as soon as a connection is made, this accept method will return this socket, and this is the reverse socket. Next I am just printing a message, client connected. So this is the printed message which will run after the connection is accepted. Next I am creating one object of scanner class because we are going to accept input from the CMD and we have to send that input as a message to the client. So for that purpose we are going to use this scanner class object. Then we are going to create OutputStream object because we are sending the data now. So OutputStream OS is equal to data socket. So this is the socket which is reverse socket connected to client dot get input stream. So this is the OutputStream object we are creating. We have already created it inside our previous question program. So next we are going to create print stream. PR is equal to new print stream, and I am connecting it to OS, which is OutputStream object, and OutputStream is connected to data socket, and data socket is connected to client system. So this is how the connection flow will be. Next I am starting, or I am creating one object of this RReceiver class which we have created earlier. This is the thread class object. So RSReceiver, RR is equal to new SReceiver, and in that bracket I am passing data socket. So automatically this data socket will be copied here into S, and from this S it will be copied to socket class. So inside our thread class, whenever we have used this CS, so CS will be replaced with this data socket. So this is how we are making connection with the client using this data socket, and this is how we are making connection to the receiving thread. So this is how the thread object is created, and next we have to start the thread. So rr.start method will start this thread, and automatically it will start running inside a background process. So automatically it will start this while loop which we have created inside thread in the backgrounds, and it will continuously check whether any message is received from the client. As soon as the message is received, it will be printed in front of the user. So this is how our receiving process is started here using these two statements: creation of thread object and starting of the thread. Next I am creating one string variable which is string reply. So as we are going to send reply to the client, so for that purpose we need a string variable. So this is the variable. Again I am starting while loop, and which is infinite while loop, because we are sending message to client again and again. So in any chat application, if you see, we are sending messages again and again. We are not closing the chat application directly after sending single message. We can send multiple messages inside that chat application. So for that purpose I am starting this while loop, so that you can send multiple messages again and again. So the reply is equal to sc.next line. So this is inside while loop. So whenever you are entering something on the CMD, that will be accepted and that will be stored into reply. Next I am just using print stream object which is pr.println and reply. So PR is the print stream object which is connected to OutputStream, and OutputStream is connected to the client socket. So this is how our data will be sent to the client using this println function which is called on PR object. So now the message is sent to the client as a reply. Next again, if I am checking that reply, if reply dot equals ignore case, and I am passing a string as exit. So why I am passing it here? Because our loop is infinite loop, so we need something so that we can close that loop. So for that purpose I am setting this message as exit. So whenever I type exit on the CMD as a reply, so what it will do, it will check whether the reply is equal to exit, and if it is equal to exit, so I am just using system.exit 0. So automatically my program will be terminated, my server program will stop here. So that's why I have used this condition. So if I type exit in the message, so it will just close the server program and we will move out of the chatting application. So this is how the while loop is ended here, and try block is ended here, and after try we have to use exception catch block. So catch exception E, and in that I am just printing that E object. So whatever the exception generated, that will be printed here in catch block. So this is how the coding of the main class is complete. Main function is complete here, and main class is also complete, which is having the sending code, and inside that we have already created a thread as a receiving message code. So that thread will be running in the background, and this sending part of the code will be running inside main function. So whenever you type any message, the send code will run and the receiving code will be running in the background already. So this is how the server program is completed. Now moving toward the client code. So similar code will be there, just we have to change the socket objects here, because we are going to use the same type of coding inside client. We are going to create a thread which is receiving thread, and that will be running in continuous loop in the background, and sending message will be running according to our main function. So the same coding will be there. So let us see the code. So initially I am importing net package, then IO package, then util package, which we have already seen in server program. Then I am creating my thread as a C receiver extend thread. So if you see, the same coding is done here which we have seen in the server program. So all the lines are same, nothing is changed here because the receiving portion is same on the server as well as client side. So that's why the coding is same here. So after that I am creating my main class, which is chat client. So in that I am creating main function, again using try catch block here. So inside the try block I am creating socket object here. I am not creating server socket here because it is a client program, so it will be connecting to the server. So for that purpose we need a socket object, and I am using it as new socket, and in that we have to pass first parameter as IP address, which is localhost, because I am going to run client and server on the same system on my computer. So that's why I am passing localhost here, then passing port number as 1234. So this socket will send a connection request to the server, and the condition is server should be running in the background. So after sending the connection request, the port number is matched and localhost is there. That means I am running this program on the same machine. So if everything matches, the server will accept the connection and it will create a return socket, which we have seen in the server program. Next I am creating output stream object as OS is equal to data socket.get output stream, because here we are sending message to the server now. So for sending code, as we have seen in the server side programming, all the similar classes will be there. So next I am creating scanner object, which is new scanner. Then print stream object is created for printing the data, and it is connected to output stream object, and which is connected to data socket, and that data socket is connected to server. Next I am creating a variable which is string variable reply. Then using a thread object, again I am creating one object of the thread class, which is C receiver RR is equal to new C receiver, and in that I am passing this data socket. So this data socket will pass to the constructor as we have seen in server program, and from that it will be initialized to CS. So this is how our data socket or the socket is passed to the thread. Next I am starting the thread, so it will run in the background in continuous while loop. Next I am starting while loop. So in that again I am using infinite loop. So reply is equal to sc.next line, so it will accept the data or input from the CMD, and that will be stored into reply, and using PR object sending that reply to the server. So this is how our reply will be sent to the server. Next again I am using the if condition to check whether I am entering exit as a reply. So if the exit is entered, what it will do, it will just close the program using this system.exit0, and also it will close the while loop. So this is how the while loop is complete. Then try block is complete, and inside catch I am just printing the exception object which we have caught here. So this is how the try catch block is complete, main function is completed here, and our chat client program is also completed here. So both the codes are completed here. To run the programs, first we have to run the server. So for that purpose I am just copying the server name. It is chat server. So going to the location, and first we have to open CMD here. Then first command is javac space classname dot java. So after entering, it has generated nodes which can be ignored. So we can just run the program using java command. So java space chat server. So if you can see, it is printed server started message because we have printed inside our program. Now the server is started and it is listening for any connection request from the client. So it is in the listening process. Now it is time to run the client program. So to run client now, I am just copying the client name, which is chat client. To run this program, we have to go to the location again, and we have to open another CMD because we are going to run client on the another CMD. We will be using one CMD as a server and one CMD as a client on the same system. So I am just typing javac chat client dot java. So after entering, it has generated nodes which is ignored. So next command is java space class name, which is chat client. So it is now started. So if you can see, a client is connected, message is printed here on the server side CMD. So now the connection is made here. So if you want to send a message to the client or you want to receive message from the server, what you can do, you can just type any messages. So I am just typing hello on the client side. So if you can see, the hello is sent and it is printed on the server side as from client hello is printed. So if I want to send message to the client from server, so I am just typing hi here and sending here. If you can see, from server hi is printed here. So this is how our real world chatting application is started. You can send any messages any number of times, that will be printed on the other side, and same on the server side, you can type anything and you can send anything, so that will be sent on the client side. So you can see, first hello is printed, then from server reply is received as hi, then whatever I am typing, that is sent to the server side and it is printed as a from client, and the message is printed again from client, the message is printed. Why it is printed again and again? Because I have sent two messages from the server or client. Next, again I am sending two messages from the server, so both the messages are received to the client, because the thread is running continuously in the background. The receiving thread is running continuously on the both sides and it is running in the background. That's why any number of message you send, that will be sent to other side and it will be received on the side. So this is how our real world chatting application is started and it is working properly. So now what I want to do, I want to just exit the application. So as we have coded, whenever I am typing exit, what it will do, it will just close the connection and it will use system.exit to terminate the program. So I am typing exit here. So you can see both the sides have closed their programs. The client connection ended message is printed here. That means client has sent exit message, and from client exit is received and it is ended the client connection and the connection is terminated from both the programs. So this is how the server is also closed and client is also closed on the system. So this is how we have achieved a real world chatting application where we can send and receive the messages simultaneously, and you can send any number of messages because we have created our coding inside loop. So you can send any number of messages there, as well as you can receive any number of messages from other side. So this is how our coding is done here, and a chatting application is done here using client and server system using socket and ServerSocket classes. So this is how this question is ended, and the practical number 25 is also ended, which was regarding a communication using connection oriented communication, and we have used socket and ServerSocket classes here. That is called TCP communication, because there is a continuous connection and there is an acknowledgement of received message on the other side. So that's why it is called TCP connection. So this is how this practical number 25 is completed here. So that's it for today's practical. I hope you understand the program clearly. If you found this video useful, don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel for more such programming solutions, and hit the bell icon so you never miss a new video. If you have any doubts or need solutions for other programs, drop a comment below. I will be happy to help. Thanks for watching and happy coding.